Thank you so much, Jan, for this very nice introduction, and I do feel old now. What I'm going to talk about today is basically four different methods to measure physical activity. And this is joint work with Joris Mulder, who is here in the room and has done an excellent job with collecting the data. And all difficult logistical questions, I might look scary your way. And then my colleagues at Statistics Netherlands, Maaike Kompier and Anne Eleveld, and also a PhD we have at Amsterdam Medical Center, Inge de Wolf. So in the Netherlands, we monitor physical activity, more or less on a yearly basis. And we do that via a questionnaire. You have several international questionnaires to measure physical activity, and we use the short questionnaire to assess health-enhancing physical activity, also known as the squash. But we know that asking about physical activity in surveys does enhance recall bias and social desirability bias. So you can imagine it's very hard to estimate how much time you spend on physical activity. We typically ask questions about sports. So do you play sports? How many hours do you play sports? Also, do you walk? Do you walk to work or for leisure? Same thing with biking. And that's more or less, then we more or less estimate the amount of physical activity that people do. And also there is some social desirability bias. People do not want to say that they are actually not that active, so they tend to overestimate their physical activity. There is a growing interest in using research-grade devices to monitor physical activity. There are not that many countries actually that do use already these research-grade devices. Norway is a country that is more or less ahead of many countries. Also, the United States and Canada, they have some monitoring with research-grade devices. And in the Netherlands, we have done a couple of pilot studies to see if we can use these research-grade devices. There are several devices that you can use. We tested about 10 of them. And we ended up with a device that is stuck on the leg with tape. And we do that because in the Netherlands, we are more or less the biking capital of the world. And we do need a tracker that is placed on top of the leg, because when you use, for example, a wrist-based device, that doesn't measure biking very well. Alternatively, more and more people have these activity trackers themselves. So why not use people's own activity tracker? And Bella talked yesterday already at the MAS workshop about data donation. We did it slightly different this time. You could imagine that people just download and upload the spreadsheets from their devices, but that is actually pretty hard. What we did, well, I'll tell you in the next slide, but a more easy way is just ask people to look at their watch, the number of steps they have taken today or yesterday, and then just manually put it into the questionnaire. So we did both. So what we did, we asked all list panel members to complete a questionnaire. We actually did it twice, so we have 2 measures of the squash questionnaire. We had some additional questions as well. We also had questions about sedentary behavior, because that is becoming a problem more and more. And also some questions about people, their attitude towards privacy and technology and stuff like that. Then we asked if they would be willing to wear a research-grade device for a week. And we also asked if they have their own activity tracker and if they would be willing to donate the data. So here you see at the top right the active pole placed on top of the leg. And below you see 2 different brands of activity trackers. And that was actually really an issue if you use people's own devices. There are different brands. They measure things differently. So for example, if you have a Garmin, and Garmin tends to, if you have a high heart rate, they more or less double the active minutes. And other brands don't do that, which makes it very difficult to estimate the amount of active minutes. And also, you can imagine if you want people to donate the data from their own activity tracker, you need to build some kind of manual. So we thought, okay, let's do that for the 4 major brands. We're not going to do that for every potential brand, but 4 major brands. But while doing that, we came across so many issues that it was actually only Fitbit that more or less gave us the feeling this is what we can ask from respondents. All other brands were far too difficult to ask. So the amazing idea of having data donated from own devices more or less ended up with a little bit of a disappointment because we could only ask Fitbit users to upload a spreadsheet. So this is the design of the study. So we asked, first we had a questionnaire, and then we asked people whether or not they were willing to wear an active pal. And then we only send out the active pal to people who also had their own activity trackers to be able to compare the results. And yeah, in the bottom arm, you see the Fitbit users, which were the only group that we could actually ask to upload a spreadsheet, which has like, 61 respondents only. So, and I thought many people have activity trackers. My personal circle might be biased there because we ended up with only like 60 people who have a Fitbit. All other people were asked to wear the active pal and also donate their data just by manually entering the data for a week. And then we only have a subset because when you distribute a research-grade device, you need to buy them, you need to send them out, get them back. So you're probably going to work with batches. We had like, I don't know, 150 devices, so we had several batches. It also takes a relatively long amount of time for every batch to come in. But those people, so we only had a relatively small subset that got the active pal, and all other people were just asked to donate the data manually. These are some screenshots. So this is to copy data for a day. So yeah, there are different brands have different types of variables. This is in Dutch, so you can practice your Dutch here. But it's basically a number of steps, calories, number of Ks, yeah, a range of different variables that you can find in these activity trackers. This is to copy data from the questionnaire into a week. So this is only one variable, and people had to enter the data from that one variable for every day of the week. And then we built a Fitbit manual, and as you can see here, this is step 12. So the easy manual already had 12 steps. And yeah, this is like where can you find the data and how to upload the data. This was actually the first step out of 12, in which we indicated, like, on your telephone, please go to the Fitbit app and forward. This is the flow of the research-grade device. So first you have to configure the device. It works with the battery, so you have to start it on a particular day, then send it out. People wear it for a week. They have to send it back. You have to extract the data. There are also specific devices to extract the data. You have to clean the devices, recharge them, and then you can send them back to a different batch. And after people have worn the active pal, they were asked to answer the second time the squash questionnaire, the questions about their own activity tracker, and also some evaluation questions about wearing the device. So the response, and I'm focusing now on the response with the donated data from people's own activity tracker due to time. You see that 81% was willing to copy the data of a week, 77% of an entire week, and 55.7% were willing to upload the data. So keep in mind, these were the Fitbit users. We see that young and highly educated people more often have an activity tracker, so the results are pretty biased, and also young people donate their data more often. The World Health Organization has developed guidelines to measure physical activity to indicate if people are active or not. It basically is 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. It also has strengthening activities, and for other people, balancing activities. You can imagine you cannot measure that with a device. So if you want to measure those things, you should measure those things, you still need to rely on survey questions. And what you see here, so in the third column, you see the adherence to the physical activity guidelines according to the physical activity tracker. And in the fourth column, you see adherence to the physical guidelines according to the questionnaire. And there are major differences. And that is because you measure different things. Because when you have a questionnaire, you measure things like sports. If you have an activity tracker, you're also measuring vacuum cleaning and walking up and downstairs the stairs to catch something. So you are measuring different things, and then it's very difficult to estimate what is the golden standard. The World Health Organization now still focuses on this moderate to vigorous activity. They are thinking about maybe using number of steps, for example. When you do have number of steps, it will become more easy. And what you see is the number of steps between all these different brands is more or less the same, and it's also very comparable to the research grade device. So measuring a number of steps is actually a pretty good and easy way to measure physical activity. So the discussion, the conclusion, having these research grade devices is burdensome, but it's actually doable, also related, of course, to the fact that center data is used to doing this kind of innovative research a lot. Uploading a spreadsheet, well, the conclusion was it is too difficult for doing this in a general population research. Maybe if you have a student population, but not for the general population. Copying data is better, but you have many different indicators. They are all calculated in a different way. But most people donate number of steps, so that is quite consistent between brands. And also about 60% have active number of active minutes, which helps in calculating the physical activity guidelines. Yeah, and the activity tracker ownership, there is a big selection and a big bias going on there.